asiona ma-connector azvafanana kana utoikwa aiwa size yacho wona ishi iyaye leta model pane yako inoda ishi part number part number yay foot. You probably didn't know. We want to talk a little bit more about that when you have to replace car parts in your car. What have been some of those experiences you've had, and why is it so important to actually know what the part number is? That's a conversation we're going to be having a little bit later. How to get the right car parts for your replacement is coming up a little bit later. But before we get there, we gotta touch base with what's been happening in our car industry. And what I love is that we have our favorite T1 Tafazi coming in, our favorite marketing officer from Zimoko, coming in to help us understand what is happening as far as car trends are concerned. Now, I'll be the first to admit, when I traveled last year and I went to India,
it embodies the crossover vehicle, albeit I think it's a bit too big to be a crossover vehicle. It sits more in the mid-size SUV range for me, but nonetheless, I think it is a very good vehicle. I think one of the big put-ups for this vehicle, unfortunately, might be the price in terms relative to the competition and that size range and what the vehicle is. But let's go back to what the vehicle is. It is a very good car. I think it's well made. It's a Toyota, so I think reliability goes without question. It might just fall back upon its popularity, rather. Might fall on the fact that the Japanese tend to be a little bit sluggish in terms of the interior of the car. But there is a new facelift for the Toyota Cross coming very soon, and this one, the Japanese have listened. They have worked very hard on the interior. It will come with a very big 12.3-inch infotainment system. It has a reworked interior, much more personality, more styling, more color. I think the finishings are better. So this might bring some excitement to a car that should have been good, but wasn't really well accepted locally.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
I'm trying to figure out who is it supposed to be playing with. Firstly, the word Corolla. For me, when I think of Corolla, I think the little sedans. My mom's first car actually was a Toyota Corolla.
Good cars.
They
last forever.
Gorgeous, yes. And she then gave it to Sekuru Wangashanziao, and I think they still have that car. And so when I hear Toyota Corolla, I'm not expecting to see anything off the ground other than a sedan, and Toyota did the most in this car.
Yeah.
So now with the new look, I love the grille. It has presence. I'm here, see me. You're not gonna miss me now, kind of feel. Who is it competing with?
It's come in one of the most exciting and the most diverse segments of the SUV range, the mid-size SUVs. Wow, where do we start and where do we finish? There is so much competition. We're talking of the Hyundai Tucson, we're talking of the Kia Sportage, we're talking about the Haval Joyon and the H6.
The Joyon?
Yes, these are vehicles that are well within that segment, because remember, it's not a traditional mid-size SUV in terms of size.
Right.
It sits in between small and medium, so it does compete against the mid-size and in some cases the higher spec smaller SUVs. So there's a lot of competition for it, I think, which is why they had to pull their socks out, and which is what probably pushed this shift towards a facelift and of course a big rework. Let's talk about the changes from the current to the new. Of course, the grille, which you noticed, is much nicer. It's been reworked. It follows the Toyota design language in a much more aggressive way. Yes, they've changed the rims. They have changed the engine. It's now smaller. The old engine was a 2-liter paired to a hybrid option, should you wish, but now it's gone to a traditional 1.8-liter Corolla engine, or it can be a 1.8-liter engine paired with, of course, the hybrid system. So it gives consumers a bit of choice as well.
Yeah. What do you think informs the downsize? Because I would have been looking for a 3.2-liter.
Well,
2.8.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? You have to look at what this car is competing against. It's competing against higher spec, smaller SUVs, and of course the larger, in terms of body space, size mid SUVs, which generally pack a 2-liter or 1.5-liter engine to a 2-liter engine. Now let's talk about the hybrid technology it encompasses. That's the leveler. Once you have a smaller engine but paired together with the battery pack for the hybrid system, the power issue goes out of it, because the electric motor works in tandem with the traditional motor, and that provides enough power, I think, for daily drives, highway driving, and so forth. So you get the advantage of fuel efficiency. And the world over, regardless of which brand we're looking at, engines are getting smaller, even at performance level. This is because technology is just getting better. Engines are getting smaller because the efficiencies in them is getting much, much better, which means no need for a 2.5 liter. We can have a 1.8 or 2 liter engine producing the same amount of power, but consuming less fuel. Win-win.
Got you.
So everyone wins.
Got you. And also, it seems to have done better in terms of space optimization.
Yes.
It looked spacious on the inside, and then we're kind of disappointed because we didn't know what to cartoon. But now it seems like they've really thought it through, right, in terms of how to make the most in terms of space and size in relation to its size. Right?
Exactly. And I think they can thank the Koreans, the South Koreans, for that. Hyundai and Kia have always been kings for this. If you get into any of the smaller hatchback models from these particular brands, let's sacrifice legroom and all that. But the market has spoken, and you have to listen to the people who buy the cars. And they've looked at what the competition is doing, and that means advantage the consumers.
It suddenly is bringing competition to the RAV, I think. The facelift of the RAV4. I think this now is like, oh, maybe I could buy this instead of the RAV.
Yeah, I think this car is probably trying to get the glory of the RAV4. If you look at the transition of the RAV4 over the years, it's gone from a relatively small SUV or smaller car to a very large car it is now. And I think it has struggled to find its place in the market. That is the RAV4. And I think the Toyota Cross or Corolla Cross, and wow, they've shown the names of Toyota Cross.
And who is it contending against? And can it stand against?
Yeah, and again, that whole, I think maybe the RAV4 was going to take a very big design change, just like the Toyota Cross did, because the RAV4, as it is right now, still a very reliable, good, practical car. But the interior, the space for how big it was, the offerings in terms of
and things like that, you're just paying for the badge sometimes.
Well, it comes. It's a different level. In terms of vehicles, it's just like sugar. You know, listen, you can buy $1,000 sugar and you can buy $2 sugar. It depends on the process behind it, the research and development, the quality of attention, and what's the benefits of whatever technology or the push they put into these vehicles. So it's very hard to compare your middle tier vehicles versus your higher tier vehicles, because of the amount of work that goes into the research and development and the amount of effort that goes into making these cars perform at a certain level. So it becomes a conversation. Yes, cars are becoming similar. The small guys are now playing in the big dog field. And I think in the future, those blurred lines will exist in that, are we really paying extra for the badge, or is there actual perceived value? The vehicles that'll be racing this season. So I think Red Bull's been running away with it. The technology and the research and everything they put into their car has just made it very, very quick vehicles. They've been performing so well. Reliability is up there. And remember, these the Formula One, in as much as it is a lot of things to consider.
And last week we were talking about how Lewis Hamilton had been making certain comments about the performance of the Mercedes,
the tractor.
Do we think
that it's slow.
That it's slow.
Yes.
Do you think we're going to see some of those changes incorporated in this new design?
100%. I think his comments are justified, because you have to look at what the competition was doing. They were just being left behind. So the tractor comment is justified. That, listen, the car was slow. Yes, not as slow as a tractor, but you know, in F1 speak, yes, it's much slower than the competition. So they have to address that, and not just because of the driver comments, because of the competition. You can't come from being a manufacturer that was doing so well, so consistently, with a car that was rated as one of the fastest on the grid, to being one that's considered middle tier, not as quick. You have to make some very drastic improvements. This impacts a lot of things. Again, Formula One is the proving ground for other technology in the industry.
Right.
If Mercedes is perceived as slow on the racetrack at Formula One, where it's supposed to excel, what about its passenger vehicles and the perception of the consumers who buy their vehicles?
Right.
The shift will now go towards the competition, which is faster. So they have to pull up their socks.
It's Capital 100.4 FM, Haradas over Toyota Corolla Cross. If you have seen that car, how are you feeling about it? Is it something you would be happy to drive? So in a minute, we're going to be looking at our mechanical issue, how to buy spare parts of your car. So every car should come with a manual. I'm just wondering, with your car, have you actually ever read your manual? Like, did you go beyond flipping the pages? Have you actually gone as far as page 35 of your manual? I want to know from you. 0719 140, because I think as on 0788 555 909. That's 0788 555 909.
Stand giveaway on the Capital 100.4 FM Facebook and Instagram pages. Then
My machine has frozen.
Oh, Hamilton's still going to be driving their car for the next 8 months.
Okay.
He's still going to be driving their car. Hamilton. He's only leaving at the end of this year.
Oh, yeah, I read that somewhere, but his contract is like
For next year, 2025.
2 years. Be able to leave Mercedes and join Ferrari. And it looks like he's actually going to have to drive this car for a season before he hops onto his new ship. And let's see how he's going to be feeling about this. Will it not make him change his mind and say, actually, this car, you're shaking your head, no?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. In fact, if anything, Ferrari is going to be very happy because they get some insider information.
Selling the trade secrets. I. So we want to move on to the issue that we're discussing today, our mechanical issue, how to buy your spare parts. Have you ever had that situation where you've had to replace the parts on your car? And there you have it. All sorts of questions were coming your way about the VIN number, the part number, and also a funny story. Most of us have a steering wheel that's circular, right, Taff? And then Alexis decides, nah, I ain't about that life. I'm about to do the most.
Exactly. So this year, in fact, last year rather, we've actually seen the advent of a rectangular steering wheel. They call it the yoke. In fact, Lexus calls theirs the yoke as well. And it's not a new technology. This has now been used. Tesla, I think, has probably been the most famous vehicle brand that has been using the yoke steering wheel for a while. In its more performance is that it is mostly in electric vehicles.
Right.
So you have to think that, the reason why steering wheels are round or circular is because it's easy to grip as you're going around turns, because you have to turn the wheel to a certain amount of times.
Yeah.
But with the new Tesla as well, that no, you don't have to do that. You can just turn your wheel just a little bit, and that's a full circle. But I think with a bit of time and practice and maybe being on the road, it becomes intuitive.
Right.
But a very interesting design. I think that's the way of the future. Very interesting to see what.
Because yeah, slightly.
Slightly, yeah. I mean, hey, listen, we have to start getting used to hybrid electric vehicles, so that's a different type of thinking when you drive. Even more so, we have to get used to electric vehicles. That's even more thought behind the driving process. And at some point, if the manufacturers make them and they become popular like that, we have to get used to new tech. I'll give it a try, but it will need some kind of thinking change, behavior change in driving a car.
So let's talk about how to get the right parts for your car. It may happen, as I was telling you earlier, for me, it's the the oxygen sensor.
Looking for to replace it. Now, one of the most common issues when it comes to parts and their replacement, of course, is getting the wrong part. That's very common. That's because it wasn't such an easy process before. It has now been highly simplified. More recent part, of course, you want to make sure that it's for the left or right orientation. If it's a headlamp, you don't want to buy 2 left headlamps, so you need 1 right. When in the sense of an oxygen sensor, you have to make sure that it fits and it's the correct one for the vehicle as well. And that's one. And then, of course, the reason why you want the correct part is because it works correctly for the appropriate function it's supposed to do.
Yeah. This one sounds like a silly.
Or your vehicle VIN number or vehicle identification number, more commonly known as the chassis number in Zimbabwe. That tells you everything about the vehicle. It lets the person who's looking for the parts know exactly which year this car was manufactured, which engine, or in some cases, I will tell people, if I need to be extra cautious, know your model, your engine number and your chassis number. With those 2 numbers, the engine number itself, it speaks about exactly which engine it is. Now, let's give you a short story. Like we're talking about the Toyota Cross before, and we're talking about Corollas, the older Corollas. There's probably about 6 or 7 different variants of the engine for the Corolla itself. At face value, just looking at it, they will look the same, but there's minute differences. The air filter might be different for this particular variant versus that. The radiator mounts are in a slightly different position. And in some cases, it's millimeters apart. So you can't tell with the naked eye that it's so different. Up until you need to fit a part you've bought, you spent money on, and it won't fit. And then someone tells you, we can modify it. Once you start modifying a part, it's not going to work exactly as intended. So which is why it's very important when you're looking for a part to go with your engine number and your chassis number. Because nowadays it's become so computerized, you can just do a query based on that. It will tell you exactly the right part number for the part you want to replace, which means you get the very correct part.
For some people, you find these numbers in your dashboard. Where else can you find them?
So commonly now, I think all the vehicles you used to have to get your work suit on, go under the car, break out a mirror, and look under the engine itself to get the engine number and the chassis number in some cases. Nowadays, if you look normally, either on the left-hand side, the driver's side, or the passenger side, there is a little tab that will have the chassis number, at least in a very visible place. Or if you open up your hood, if you look towards the center part or look for a data plate, which is what we call it in the business, it will have it stamped on in a very visible place. Of course, manufacturers know that engine bays get dirty, so they can hide these numbers. So sometimes check your driver or passenger side door columns. They usually are there. At the very least, check the vehicle registration book. Those details should be in there.
But you know, speaking of the car registration book, but most of us hardly engage or interact with the manual that comes with the car. That's if your cars even come with a manual.
True. This is very true. This is very true. The manual is a very good guideline. It's unfortunate in modern cars these days, because they don't want to keep reprinting for different variants of the same model, they generally print one standardized manual, which will tell you generally is the top end version of the vehicle because it encompasses everything all the way down. It will tell you exactly but it will tell you where the engine, chassis, and engine number are for your vehicle. But when all else fails, just check your registration books. That's probably the easiest reference point because that's checked at least 2 times when the vehicle comes in. So if there's no human error in the sequence after that, say you're buying a second-hand car, and these details should remain true, and those should be your reference point when trying to buy any part for your vehicle.
Let's talk about actually part buying. How do you, here I am, I've got the VIN number, I've got the year, the make, the model, I've got everything. How to actually know which brand, for example, I'm picking up with? Is it a good quality hand, second hand, or am I going for a generic, or am I going for an original? Sometimes it's like too much option.
Exactly. So in the world of parts, you genuinely have your genuine parts, your genuine original OEM parts, or you have your aftermarket parts, or your non-genuine parts. Nowadays, manufacturers are making it more confusing because you can have a genuine part, which is the original genuine part for the vehicle, a manufacturer made non-genuine genuine parts, and then of course your aftermarket non-genuine parts. I would say that it depends on the age of the vehicle and the condition of the vehicle. If you drive a very old vehicle that is in poor condition, it is not advised to buy genuine parts. The reason being the cost of them. Genuine parts generally cost more, have tighter tolerances in terms of the quality and build quality, which translates to the actual fit that they are guaranteed to fit whatever application they're being put into, but they cost more. So if you drive a very old car, there's no point buying a genuine part. Now, this is the case for manufacturer-made non-genuine parts, because they understand that if vehicles go over warranty, the need or the want for the consumer to actually contain their costs in terms of repair and maintenance becomes higher. So they offer these options, which don't cost as much as a genuine part, but still work within a very, very close, tight tolerance of quality that they will last a very long time and still do the job well. Then, of course, when the vehicle gets very old, the issue of maintenance becomes more pronounced, but no one wants to spend more money on maintenance than they do. This is why aftermarket parts or non-genuine parts exist, because they become very easy and affordable for people to purchase, and they're not made to last long, but to achieve a purpose. The car will last for 6 months using these parts. It will get you moving. But again, it comes back to the condition and age of the vehicle. That will determine if you're going for genuine or a non-genuine option.
It's Capital 100.4 FM Harare, but we're under the hood as we are looking at how you could be buying your car parts wrongfully or correctly. Do you know where your VIN number is? Do you know what your chassis number is? Is it within reach? And when you have had problems buying or replacing a car part, what happened? We want to know from you on 0719 100 404. Choosing the brand for your spare parts. Are you one of those people that's happy to go to a car breaker, knowing that whatever it is that you're looking for is going to be original? You're happy to part with your cash to get that. Or are you one of those people you need your part brand new as well as original? That means you're paying a little extra dollar. Or perhaps you aren't really bothered about brands. You're the kind of person that says, listen, if it's going to get my car to start and I can go from point A to point B, I'll take it. Doesn't even matter. We want to know from you.
It's usually about flowers. It's usually about chocolates or candlelit dinners. But this Valentine's is different because it's her turn to sweep you off your feet. Remember, it's a leap year.
The month of love on Capital 100.4 FM. Harara's heart beating with love.
Happy Valentine's Day.
There's something I like about that guy saying Happy Valentine's Day. I felt it. And am I the only person yesterday that was moving around and didn't see the city painted red? What happened yesterday, guys? This was so disappointing. I saw 1 or 2 people in red, and even that red was like, it wasn't like, it wasn't a fashion statement. It was just, it's a theme, but it wasn't. What happened? Let me know. We were all excited, and we failed. I think as Harare, we let ourselves down. There wasn't.
Not as Harare. I think the ladies let us down. All the guys were waiting.
Would you not wait in color theme? You don't wear your reds also?
We're being neutral. I want to see what happened first.
Neutral doesn't win. It was quite interesting. No lady in red. What was the ambience at your office about Valentine's Day? Complete side note.
It was actually fairly quiet. I think this Valentine's was quiet, and it's sad for us guys because we were expecting a lot.
Tires and things.
Yes, tires, socks, and everything else. But unfortunately, not much came our way. So we were on strike. We were rebelling against the day.
So how is this strike enacted? What did you guys do?
Nothing. We were waiting to see what the ladies do. We just waited.
And nothing came.
And nothing came. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, sending you hearts. But what happened? Valentine's Day. There was only one person who I saw strutting across where was she? 3rd Street holding cake, and I think she was in red. That was it. I did not see anything else anywhere else. What happened to us yesterday? I want to know from you. 0719 out of 404. So in selecting parts, replacement parts, this is gonna sound like a dumb question, but I'm sure there is some generic spare parts. Obviously, original is the preferred, right? But surely there's some good generic spare parts that are good fix.
100%. There are actually companies that make money and in fact are very strong big businesses from offering generic, good quality aftermarket parts for a number of vehicles. I think the more popular the vehicle brand is, and that's represented by a number of cars on the road, you tend to find there are companies or brands that can actually make these parts, non-genuine parts, that are very popular and very good, a very good option. I think going up and down any high street that sells parts in Harare or Bulawayo, wherever you are, you will see very familiar names that shout at you, and that's just the approval to say that, listen, it's aftermarket, but it's good.
Yeah, but just say manje, because it's aftermarket, it's not original. The other day, I buy a certain kind of plug with a B name, and mine, the sort of plugs, because I've got a sports car, right? Like the spark plug at the top, it has like 4 prongs. There's the one that just has a hook, and then there's the one that has like 4 like fingers at the top.
Yes.
And I normally am recommended to buy the one that has fingers at the top, right? And then normally they were like $10-15, and the other day they were $2. And then she said, "No, because I want the market." I was like, from 15 to 2. No. Once I was happy.
Yes.
But then when I started thinking about it realistically, I was like, am I being honest with myself?
Not so much. They will do the job for the short term, but not the long. Your car will move, but expect in a few months that you probably have the same issue. So that's the fight between genuine and non-genuine. The genuine part costs more, and you find in this case spark plugs probably run the proper distance, 80,000 Ks, sometimes even to 100,000 Ks if the proper care is taken. But the cheaper option, the $2 one, it'll do a year maybe if you're lucky, but it'll achieve the goal. So again, that's the whole fight and determination between genuine and non-genuine. What kind of performance do you want out of your car?
I'm just wondering, from if the price had been the same, would I necessarily have been able to tell that this plug is suspicious?
No, you've opened up a door, because not at face value. No, I think the performance aspect of the vehicle, how the part is performing in your car, will tell you if it was genuine or non-genuine. The reason why it was cheaper, of course, is because more times than not, it is a non-genuine part, and hopefully it was not a counterfeit part, which is something people have to watch out for as well.
Yeah.
Some people package genuine parts, counterfeit genuine parts as original genuine parts. So you have to know, and manufacturers are not silly. They've actually put up a lot of information online, and unfortunately it's only access point at the moment for one to kind of look at, where you can see actual markings about how to identify if a product is genuine or non-genuine in terms of parts. Yeah. So it's just like a phone. There's certain telltale signs to let you know that this phone is not the genuine article. It's something's not right. Same thing applies in parts, but it is a bit more difficult, admittedly. But there are some kind of fail-safes manufacturers try to use, and even the non-genuine good quality guys also use the same thing to protect their brands against counterfeiting as well.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you think the parts we have on our streets are generic?
Generic. Probably, I think there's more generic parts as opposed to original parts on the streets. 100%. Probably, I'll say 70% spread. That's because we have a lot more second-hand vehicles on the market as opposed to newer and new vehicles. Therefore, the market is very price sensitive, reflective by the purchase decision to get second-hand over new. Therefore, there is a cost consideration when maintaining the vehicle, and most people generally tend towards spending as little as possible or what is achievable to make the car move. Therefore, it leans towards the generic parts.
Yeah,
they are cheaper.
And that makes sense, really. I mean, what we want to do is spend wisely, right? To get the cheaper and the thriftier thing. And aftermarket parts, what does that mean?
Aftermarket parts, so these again, it's non-genuine parts. So these are parts that are fitted, that are not factory approved, but still do a certain function or enhance certain performance parameters. So the words aftermarket are probably more associated with sportier cars, like I put an aftermarket muffler. So this thing is to either enhance a character aspect of the car, make it sound better, usually the exhaust, aftermarket straight exhaust. It makes that already loud engine sound louder. I think we probably hear a lot of vehicles, Subarus and so forth, with aftermarket exhaust. They sound very loud. That's an aftermarket part. And of course, there are some aftermarket parts which enhance the performance in terms of engine output and so forth. So aftermarket generally implies that it either enhances a characteristic of the appearance of the car or aesthetic, and then there's other ones that affect the performance aspect. But if you were to broad brush the term, it just means anything that's not factory recommended for the vehicle, but still works with the vehicle to perform its function. All
right, we've got like 6 minutes left. We've been talking today about shopping for your car replacement parts. Do you know your model number? Do you know where to find it? Your make and the year. There's a term we use, like every time we have, like, say, a new fit, people always say, "If facelift, if facelift is a new one." Without realizing, no, that was probably like 10 years behind. There's still like much newer models, and that you actually need to know by name what they're called. And where do you buy your spare parts? We're wondering from you. Are you worried about the kind of parts that you are buying for your car? That's what we've been talking this morning on Under the Hood. As we are rounding off, Taff, let's back up. I just want to say, this Valentine's Day was so sad. Ladies, Msadar, you let us down. Sheesh, were we that terrible? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We let you down in the gift, I guess. It's in the gifting. Ladies, please help me redeem our kind. Quite akashkonewa. Kurerno. Not Japanese kwakarno ya rotevera. My way. In Janguini. We're about to round up our discussion as we are looking at buying parts. Have you had any struggles yourself trying to replace any car parts of your car?